Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of The Recovery Scene. I am your host, Leslie. Now, as always, remember to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and if you have any questions for today's guest, who I am so excited about, I have been waiting for this one for like months. Right, as I was saying, post your questions in the comments below, and I will make sure to forward them over to Dr. Cali Estes, who is the celebrity addictions coach that I have been waiting for. I became a certified recovery coach through the Addictions Academy, and Dr. Cali is the founder and CEO. She is also a best-selling author. Her book is I Married a Junkie. I almost wanted to say, So I Married a Junkie, like So I Married an Ex-Murderer. Remember that movie?
Oh my God.
I Married a Junkie. I am thrilled. I am thrilled. I am so excited that you're here because I have been looking forward to this one forever. So basically, I'm just going to let you, first of all, I am going to totally ogle the dragon that is on the desk next to you. Oh my gosh. That I collect dragons. I have my dragon earrings on.
Oh my goodness.
Oh.
So we just moved to this house and I just found the new metaphysical shop. Like that's my thing. When I get somewhere, I'm like, gotta find, gotta see what you have. And I walked in and I saw this dragon. I'm like, I have to have this. And my husband is like, what are you gonna do with it? And I said, pet it. And
right. Like I will figure something out.
He's like, okay, weirdo. All right, we'll get you the dragon. We'll take it home, put it in the office, shut the door. So this is my little dragon.
Well, I think it's awesome. We had to get rid of I had this beautiful, the glass tabletop, the dragon is like sitting and it's like on his head.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You seen that? He looks like him, only he's sitting. Well, for little children, I thought that might not be the way to go, but I am going to get that later. And I'm going to get the matching end tables that are also dragons.
Ah, very nice.
Like, oh God. So anyway, I'm just going to kind of let you take it away. We were talking about this ahead of time. I didn't know if you wanted to talk about being a celebrity addictions coach first, if you wanted to talk about your book first, if you wanted to just, tell crazy stories from things you've dealt with. I mean, it is all up to you. So wherever you want to start, you just go.
All right. So I'll just tell you how I got into this, who I am and what I do. I had wanted to be an FBI agent. So I had gone to college to study psychology at Penn State, and I got an internship at prison, a male prison. And during the course of my internship, they had said to me, well, you can't really work with the crazy guys. This is back in the 90s, before Criminal Minds and all that. The BSU wasn't women, it was men.
Right.
So he said, well, if you want to do this, you're going to end up basically fetching coffee for the men. And I thought, I don't want to do that. But my mentor was ex-CIA, so he put me with the drug addicts. And my first thought was, great, boring. And he goes, oh, honey, you have so much to learn. Drug addicts are not boring. And I went, okay. And I started studying body language. And I really thought this was amazing. So while doing this and taking these courses, I'm a college student, I'm 21, I'm partying like a rock star. I'm gone out, Thursday night with the girls, Friday night, drinking and whatnot. But I would always come home alone. They would stay and hook up with the boys. And I was the fat friend. I was the wingman consistently. So one night I'm at home and I'm eating cake with my hands. And there's cake on the wall, cake on the floors, cake on the dog. And my roommate walks in and she's like, okay, that's weird. And I'm like, this is normal. This is what we do. And she goes, really? And I'm like, yeah, this is how I grew up. My mother did this every time she was stressed, every time she was sad, she ate. She goes, you need to see a therapist. You got a problem. So I went to a therapist. Their therapist looked at the DSM and said, well, okay, do you restrict food? No. Do you throw up after you binge? No. She goes, well, you don't fit the definition of an eating disorder, so we're going to send you to the fat doctor. Well, back then, fen-phen was in. So the fat doctor said, okay, obviously you eat too much. Obviously you binge, but you don't purge, so you're okay. Here, take the fen-phen. I went from 160 to 90 pounds in 60 days.
Wow.
And I liked the fen-phen. And the fen-phen led to ephedra, and the ephedra led to speed. And next thing you know, bam, I was on a roller coaster. So I had to get off of that. And then I had to learn about my food addiction. And I couldn't figure it out because I'm studying this addiction stuff and I'm going, that's me. I fit the profile of an addict. Okay, great. So I learned how to get the speed and the diet pills and the ephedra and the mahawang all under control, but I couldn't get the food under control because everything I had learned about eating disorders wasn't me. I'm like, I'm not throwing up. I'm basically binging every time I have an emotion. And I was at a yoga class with a friend of mine who's now in recovery for alcohol. And the guy teaching the class was in recovery for alcohol. And he's like, I'm going to teach you how to do this, because I had gone to 12-step and I skipped a part for you. So this is how I got sober. I ended up in the ER and I was having heart palpitations at 23. And the doctor said to me, you're going to die. You can't continue taking speed. You're blowing up the lining of your heart. Of course, I'm 23. I'm like, you know what? I got this. Okay, he said. 6 months later, same thing in the ER with a heart attack, borderline heart attack. Same thing from a different doctor. You have to stop this. He hands me a pamphlet for NA and a pamphlet for OA. So now I go to NA and they have cigarettes, which I love. They have tons of caffeine, which I love because I'm a stimulant girl. And they have tons of sugar, which is my drug of choice. And I'm having a field day. Then I go to OA, which is Overeaters Anonymous. They don't have any of it. And I'm thinking, I don't like this one. I'm going to stick to NA.
I'm going with the doctor.
Yeah, I want to get in it. But I couldn't get it under control. So I said, okay, I can't do this. And then I ended up in that yoga class. And the gentleman teaching it said, I'm going to teach you how to get sober on a yoga mat. And I'm like, dude, I can't touch my toes. He's like, trust me, you're going to do it. So I learned how to get sober using yoga, which was completely, yeah, the breathing and the emotions. Like every time you have an emotion, you do a sun salutation. Every time you have an issue, you do a sun salutation. So I started learning that. And I went, this works. This actually works for me.
And I'll bet you nowadays people could do that for nothing. They could Google, YouTube, yoga for recovery, and I'll bet you 300 videos show up.
Oh, yeah. Yep. And that's what I did. And I just kept doing it until I got the food addiction under control and then the drug problem. And I thought, there's got to be no one like me, because everyone I was meeting there wasn't a food problem. It was either eating disorder or drug addiction or alcohol. I didn't have, there wasn't someone like me until I started doing this at the level I'm at. And I started meeting lots of me people, people who have dual issues and other problems. So that's my journey. And I started working in the prison and the nonprofits. And then I got tired of being basically poor because I was working 60-hour work weeks, doing the crazy stuff on the street. And I said, I really want to do this, but I'd like to be able to pay the rent, which
right. That's nice.
Right. I targeted the celebrity market and I got it. So I do high-end clients. I do celebrities. I do executives. I do pretty much anybody that's off the rails, doctors, police officers, all of that. They're just as crazy as the people who have no money. So it doesn't matter. It's just now I can pay the rent. That's the only difference.
Right.
So that's my personal journey up to that point.
Right. So now I guess, yeah. How did the Addictions Academy come about?
So 13 years ago, a friend of mine said, how did you get into the celebrity market? Because your background is psychology, your background is therapy. And I said, I switched to coaching because nobody wants a therapist. Therapist is 1980. It implies something's wrong with you, right? A coach implies something's okay with you. You just need to learn to live life better. Different concept. And when I crossed that bridge, my business tripled like that because people want to be well. They don't want to be told there's something wrong with you. You have to come see me every day for the next 15 years while we talk about the same issue. They want to progress. So when I made that switch, it worked. And then people said, well, how did you do it? And I said, I just studied coaching. So I started creating courses and I created a recovery coach course and an intervention course. And now we have 30 some classes. We have the largest grant for all the first responders in Alaska. We're training all of them. We've trained first responders in New Jersey and Florida. We have a grant in Nebraska for opiate use disorder training, and we're the largest in the world. We're in 25 countries, 5 languages, and we have 20 some teachers. We just brought on Vance Johnson. He was my student like 10 years ago, and he's now on intervention, A&E's intervention, and so is Dave Marlin. He was one of my students. He's on A&E's intervention. So we're getting bigger and bigger as we go.
Wow, that is very cool. And like I said, I went through the Addictions Academy, and you've got Kevin Parker, who he taught me, and he's just finished writing his book and everything. And that guy, if you haven't seen his story, you know, go to my very first, it looks completely different because, you know, they evolve, they get better. But go back to my very first YouTube interview. The setup is weird, but the story is unbelievable. And I reference him all the time. And I know this happened to other people, but I've got him as a reference. I'm like, listen, this man literally came back from the dead. You can come back from addiction like you're still alive. Like if you can come back, somebody can come back from the dead and recover and become successful. So can you. I promise you. Yeah, so can you. So he is like so inspiring. And so, yeah, you've got him too. And he taught me. And then hopefully later you'll be like, oh, and I have Leslie and she's doing, you know, all these amazing things. But what about, and then, okay, so you wrote a book. First, let's go back because this is going to be the part. This is like, you know, with I Married a Junkie. This is the part where everybody like breaks out the ice cream and leans forward. And they're like, this is the stuff. So let's go back. How did you meet your husband? Like, how did that come about?
So I quit the industry. I was homeless. I'd started a fitness company and I lost it in the economic downturn of 2008. And I had moved back from California and Texas to Philly.
Now,
and
before you were coaching?
Correct. This is right before I went into private practice. So I quit the industry and I had a fitness company and I'm like, you know what? I need a break. This industry is just insane. Took a break, had a fitness company, lost it, came back, was basically living in a house with no heat, no running water, figuring out what am I going to do now? You know, everything I'd owned burned up in a fire. It was a complete disaster.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? My business partner said, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I'm going to switch industries. I'm going to work in the music industry. And he just looked at me. He's like, why? I'm like, because it's got to be better than anything else. And I ended up managing bands. And my husband's band had contacted me and I'd gone to New York to meet with them. That's how I met him, at a Starbucks. And he had hired my company to manage his band. And I said, I can't date clients. And he said, well, we're going to fire you and then you can date me. And I was like, you're kidding, right? And he's like, oh. So that's how it all went about. And
like you have to, because otherwise you just lost a client for nothing.
Correct. And then I started dating him and I said, you know, give me a couple of reasons to date you. Why? You're a rock and roll guy. There's no stability. You're all over the place. You're traveling all around. You know, you've already been married. You have 2 kids. Give me a reason that isn't like crazy. And he says, well, I'm going to give you 4. Okay. What for? He goes, well, we both like to text. This is when text was just coming out, like the flip phone.
Right.
Okay. All right. Great. He said, we both like music. Okay, great. He said, we both wear eyeliner. And I went, okay. And then he said, we both love me. And I said, purely based on your narcissistic, self-absorbed asshole attitude, you have 1 date. And he goes, I only need 1 date. You'll marry me. Sure enough, here we are.
Oh, wow. That's funny. And now people are going to ask like, and this is okay. This is a little off topic from recovery, but how do you go from, okay, you decided you were going to start a fitness company. That kind of makes sense because you learned your recovery through yoga. Mm-hmm. And we're all into fitness now. But how do you go from that to just like, you know what? I'm just going to do this. Like I have a degree in psychology or psychiatry, but I'm going to manage bands and then make it work.
Well, I'm a serial entrepreneur. So I've had 6 companies and I've started all my companies with $0 or less than $300. I do everything.
We'll talk about that alone later.
Okay. I do everything on law of attraction, everything. So when I started this private practice for this, I had been working for a treatment center for a year to get back into the industry, get my feet wet, and I really hated it. And I walked in the door and I said to my husband, I quit today. And he goes, we live in Miami. How are we going to pay the rent? Like Miami's New York rent. And I went, I'll figure it out. And he just looked at me and he's like, we're going to get evicted. The car's going to get impounded. Like he's already, I said, I got this. And he goes, what are you going to do? I said, if I make more money in the next week than I would in a month working for someone else, I'm doing it. And if I do it, I'm going to do it big. And he goes, all right, let's see how that goes. 2 days later, I walked in with a $2,500 check and set it on his lap. And he goes, what's that for? I'm like, 1 client paid in full 10 sessions. And he just turned his head and he's like, son of a bitch, how did you do it? I'm like, law of attraction. And he sat there and he goes, what else can you do with law of attraction? I'm like, you want to go on tour? He goes, yeah, watch. So we created exactly how much money he wanted to make, where he wanted to go. And we flyered the entire house with these little flyers. And I said, focus on it, concentrate. He got in the car. There's one attached to the steering wheel. Like, it was everywhere. And then I just sent out a few feelers. And we got an inquiry through LinkedIn for a blues rock band that said they wanted to interview him. And he goes, well, how am I going to get to LA? Like, I have to get to LA from Miami. I'm like, we'll figure it out. So I went online and I put all my points together and put a little cash together and sent him out to LA, and he got the job. And he called me and he goes, not only did I get hired up against 5 like major superstar musicians, you're not going to believe how much I make per gig. And it was the exact amount on that piece of paper in the house. And he's like, this law of attraction stuff is pretty good. That's how my whole life has been like that.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
You're going to have to do like a whole, okay, so now you're going to have to get us all certified in law of attraction.
I should, but people get wigged out with it because it's like, you can't scientifically prove it, but I can tell you everything I built, I've used it. Everything. You name it, I used it.
Wow. Yeah, we're going to talk later. But okay, so we're married to, tell us your husband's name.
Tim.
Tim, that's right. Okay, so now we've started dating Tim, and what happens from there?
So we got married and moved to Miami, and he went to work doing his thing with music, and I went to work in a treatment center, and then I quit and started private practice. So as I'm doing my private practice, this is 2012, 2013, building my private practice, 2 major things happened. He found heroin. He was never a heroin addict. He did coke and alcohol here and there, but it was never out of control. He had it all under control, once in a while, basically. And out of nowhere, a friend of his gave him an oxy, and he tried it. Back then, they were $3 a pill. Okay, he could take 10 a day, wasn't a big deal. When they shut the pill mills down, his $3 a pill habit turned into a $35 a pill habit. Now it's a $350 a day habit. So he turned to heroin. So 10 bags of heroin was 120 bucks. Yeah. So the money wasn't an issue. I wasn't seeing it missing because it wasn't significant enough at that time. Plus, I'm traveling all around the country. I'm meeting with clients. I'm in LA. I'm in Vegas. I'm not seeing him. And then he's traveling with bands. So it's not like we're 9 to 5 having dinner. I didn't know what was happening until I was in Vegas. And I called home at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday, and he sounded drunk. And I'm thinking, he barely drinks, maybe a beer on the weekend, maybe a glass of wine with dinner. What's going on?
Right.
And he hung up on me, and I didn't hear from him for 4 or 5 hours. And then he seemed normal. And I'm thinking, this is really weird. Well, I came home to all of my jewelry in the pawn store and all of his music equipment, thousands of dollars in the pawn store. And I was gone for like 2 weeks. And I'm thinking, what is going on? And he won't take a pee test. He doesn't seem weird. He seems normal.
Right. How was he explaining counting all this away?
Oh, he had this bill and he got this fine, and it made sense. He lost his license for this. Okay, that made sense. I didn't want to tell you about an accident and a ticket and yada, yada. Okay. It made sense, but it didn't make sense.
Right. And sometimes we just don't want to see when it comes to people that we love, no matter how professional or how much we should know better, sometimes we just don't want to.
Right, exactly. And I thought, all right, it'll fix itself. It'll right itself. And then I left, and then I came back, and he was not right. He was a mess. And I said, all right, you got to get sober. You can't do this. This is ridiculous. So he detoxed right there with nothing and got sober. And I'm like, okay, good. We're on the right track. We're ready to go. Well, nope. Off to the races again. So the cold turkey detox for him didn't work. I mean, he's throwing up in the bucket, and I just shut the door and said, I'm going to the gym, and left and figured it'll happen. But that didn't work. So I would take him with me at different parts of traveling, and he would bring the drugs with him and then basically run out. So it was getting crazy. It's what was happening. So I hired a coach, I hired a detox person, I hired a sober companion. I'm like, you know what? Get it right. So all these people are working with him, and he's still using. At this point, it got public that, my husband is battling a heroin addiction. And one of my biggest haters went to Facebook, and he also teaches classes, or did at the time. And he wrote, how can Dr. Cali be any good at her job if her husband is a junkie?
Oh,
and took my husband's criminal record. My husband has 24 felonies and 16 misdemeanors. Took my picture and put it on his criminal record and said, Cali has 24 felonies and 16 misdemeanors, and basically discredited me in the industry. This is 2014.
Isn't that slander? Because it's false.
Correct. But because he was such a heavyweight, people flocked to him, and he'd been on his TV and TV that. So I started losing not only income, but credibility at this point. It's 2014. So I had to hire a PR team. I had to sue the guy. We had a 6-year lawsuit that I just finished.
Wow.
Doing all this nonsense. But as this is happening, and my husband, you know, starting to get sober, he had 4 overdoses, 7 car crashes, and a carjacking between the use and the sobriety.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that was crazy. But when he got sober, I said, let's write a book and let's call I Married a Junkie, and let's put the whole thing together, put your criminal record in there, put you know, put everything, how we met, your criminal record, the overdoses, the car crash, the carjacking, everything.
Right.
So we did. And when I wrote the book, I opened it up and I wrote, Dear so-and-so, because I can't say his name, thank you for giving me the title to the book, and F you, and send him a copy, because this got me on TV.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So that's the story behind that.
Right. Now tell us, if you will, because I know I don't want you to tell all of it, because, you know, we want people to read the book, but tell us about one time when your husband overdosed. That had to be scary.
I think the scariest one was the carjacking, because he disappeared and I didn't know where he was for like 8 hours. And out of nowhere, he just called me and sounded perfectly fine. And I said, where are you? And he goes, I just need you to pick me up. I'm going to send you the address. And he hung up, wouldn't answer the phone. So I typed the address in and I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay. So I followed the GPS and it's a hospital. And I'm thinking, oh my God, did he have a heart attack? Did he have an accident? Because he wouldn't answer the phone. I had no information. I get there, he's got no shirt on, no shoes on, and he looked like death warmed over. And I said, what happened? And he's like, I need to talk to you. Okay, what happened? He goes, I got carjacked. What do you mean you got carjacked? He said, well, I'm driving down the street. This guy bumps into me and he comes up to the door and tells me to go to the ATM and give him money, and he won't report the car. So I park, and that's all I remember. So I said, where was it? And he goes, on 79th, which is basically the hood of Miami. I'm like, great, you're in the hood. Now I know what you're doing in the hood. I already know what you're doing.
Right.
I know why you're there.
And there was a time right around, depending on what year that was actually not that, but it was on the news for tourists. If you get bumped, do not pull over. Do not pull over, because it was a scam. It was a carjacking and robbery scam.
So he had pulled in, got out, left the car running, left the keys in the car, and went into the ATM and nodded out at the ATM on the ground. And the owner of the store called 911. He was overdosing in the store. He's like, you're not going to die on my, in my store. I'm not having that. So he called 911. They came and got him. So when he went to the hospital and he said, where's my car? Everyone said, what car? You weren't in a car. You were in a store at an ATM. There was no car. So I said, well, where are the cameras? There was no cameras. I mean, you're in the hood. Who has cameras? So I had LoJack on the car. And then it was like piecing that together and the police finding the car. Well, they had been stealing BMWs and then driving them through jewelry stores, like to the front door, and then, doing a heist. So the guys that had taken my car had started stripping my car already by the time they caught him.
Right. I was going to ask how much was left.
Yeah. And when I got there, the cop was like, so I need to ask you questions. Did you have a knife in your car? No. It's like, did you have heroin in your car? And I'm thinking, that's probably my husband's. No. And he said, did you have a gun in your car? And I'm like, no. So the guys that, stole the car, I'm thinking, okay, well, they had guns and knives and whatnot. And then later, my husband's like, there's a reason I didn't press charges. And I said, why? This is like 4 years later. I said, why? He goes, well, those weren't the other guy's stuff. And I'm like, what in the hell were you up to? Like, then the stories come out, like the real stories, And he said, well, the gun was my friend's and the knife was mine. And of course, the heroin's mine. And I'm like, Jesus, what the? So, but later you find all this stuff out. Like, it was crazy. And I wasn't there for the 3 of the 4 overdoses. I was only there like physically for the one calling 911. So one I got to see, which was really crazy because I kicked him in the chest and knocked him over the sofa backwards because he was blue and I couldn't get him to breathe. And I just kicked him with everything I had to get the heart to go, which got him up. And I'm on the phone with 911, you know, you got to get here now, because I didn't have any Narcan, because back then you couldn't get Narcan. It was like, you just don't walk in and go, hi, I'd like some Narcan. It was like, you had to get a prescription. You had to have a reason. I mean, now, thank God it's not like that.
Right. So now how long has he been clean?
He's been 2 years, if you count the relapse. So that's good.
That is good. That's really good. You know, it's not an easy road. It is a difficult road, you know. And so, yeah, clean time is awesome. So, what are plans? I guess, what else can you do? Seriously, like besides, what are some plans going forward here? I know you've got, now let me ask you a question. The red label, that's yours, isn't it? Now, did you come up with this?
So we have a whole line. We have Sleep and Calm. There's Energy and Awake. I sold out of those. We have Focus. Dr. Tara Lynn and I, you should have her on your podcast too, came up with this because both of us, unbeknownst to the other person, were taking our clients to Vitamin Shop and getting them what they need to feel better. So I'm in there going, you need 5-HTP, you need tyrosine, you need melatonin, and I'm, you know, basically sending them home with $750 worth of crap from Vitamin Shop. And she was doing the same thing. And just sort of in passing, we started talking about it. And she's like, are you doing that too? And I said, yeah. And we went, let's create a line because nobody has one. So these are not vitamins. People mistake this and say, oh, I need a vitamin. This is brain health. It crosses the blood-brain barrier. So it literally heals your brain from the damage you did per drug. So red label is for heroin and opiates. We have a white label for cocaine and meth. We have a green label for marijuana. We have a blue label for alcohol and sugar. Each one is specific to the drug of choice. And then we have a custom package that we can take your saliva and your urine and analyze everything and tell you everything you're missing and everything you need, and then package that specifically to you.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
So it's like if somebody was, so if somebody was a cocaine addict, there is a brain health capsule.
Correct.
Specifically for them.
Yes, because everybody does drugs for a different reason, but most of it is because your serotonin dopamine is off. So if you do opiates, let's say you do cocaine, right? Your brain fires like this, normal, right? Mm-hmm. Speeds it up. Any stimulant, methamphetamine, crack, alcohol, Xanax, benzos, and marijuana just slow it down, right? That's it. But opiates hijack it. So it stops working at all. And it floods the system this way with serotonin, dopamine. So every one of the packets has to be different because with the opiates, your brain's not even firing 20 days after using, unless you're taking Suboxone, Vivitrol, or methadone. Nothing's happening. So we got to get your brain to go, hello, let's work. Right. It's got to happen. So that's what the red label does. That's why people say it's about 15 days to get into your system, a little bit longer. But right around the 15-day mark, people are like, oh my God, I woke up, I had an 8-hour sleep, I went to work, I didn't feel sick, I didn't lose any energy till about 4 o'clock. And then I took my next packet and I'm like, woohoo, okay, I feel good. What's going on? Their brain's firing and they're just not used to it.
So it also makes sense because you said alcohol and sugar. So it makes sense that a lot of us who, one of our big issues was alcohol, we now have, like, some of us might have a children's cereal issue and others might have other things going on, you know, and it's the craving of the sugar. So if you're somebody who, okay, let's use me for example. If you're somebody who was alcohol and when it wasn't alcohol, it was speed. So you were kind of on almost opposite ends of the spectrum, you know. Mm-hmm. That's where the customized.
Correct.
That's where somebody could do the customized version of it.
Correct. So a lot of times I'll ask people if I could give you any drug. I've got a silver platter that I'm going to sit in front of you. You can pick any drug. You can have sugar, you can have alcohol, you can have opiates, benzos, marijuana, or any stimulant you want, but you can only have one for the rest of your life with no consequences. Which would you pick? That tells me a lot, because a lot of times people will go cocaine or they'll go opiates. But sometimes somebody will go, I can't pick one because I want that one and that one and that one. Then I know you need the custom packet because you got all kinds of stuff going on in your brain. But usually people have a drug of choice primary and then a secondary. So I'm primary sugar, secondary stimulants. So if I eat sugar, I want a stimulant. I want a diet pill instantly. So guess what? Don't eat sugar. Guess what happens? Don't want stimulants. But that doesn't mean my brain's not firing correctly.
Okay, that makes sense. That's really, that little bit of explanation was just really, really eye-opening. So we're going to do the kind of cliche thing to wrap things up. People that are still, two questions. Let's do two questions, because people that are still struggling and trying to get into recovery, let's talk about the people who have been to rehab and have done the detox and it's still not working. What would you say to them?
So two things. First of all, you haven't gotten to the root cause of why. That's the failure of most treatment centers and most treatment programs. You come in, you get 1 hour of therapy a week, 2 hours of therapy a week. That's it. Nobody's getting to your why. It's group after group after group after group. You need someone to sit down and go, why are you using? Let's figure out the why and let's solve it. Everybody uses for a reason. Most stimulant people are bored. Most people that use downers, alcohol, benzos, sugar, and opiates are numbers. They just want to numb out. I don't want to deal with something. So I'm going to use this to not deal with this. So when I treat it like a coping mechanism. And I say, if you're reaching for this, I want to know why. If I solve the why and I teach you a new coping strategy, you're not going to want that item because you have something else in place of it that makes you feel better. But I can't do that chemically. So if your brain is broken, I have to fix that chemically. And that's the other problem with treatment centers. They're not sending you home with things that fix you. They're sending you home with 15 big pharma medical things, Wellbutrin and Prozac and all this other crap. None of that is going to fix your brain. It's going to give you more problems. And eventually you're going to go, screw it. I don't want any of that makes me feel like a zombie. I want that cocaine. I feel better on the cocaine than those 8 prescription medications. So we don't know the why. We need the why, and we need to fix your brain. If we do those two things, now you're going to have success.
Okay. And then, what was my other question? Darn it, I was so busy paying attention. I forgot. So I wanted to know for the people who are still suffering. Okay. This might be the same answer, actually. People get into recovery and I don't know what it is, but a lot of them think this is worse than when I was using. Mm-hmm. I am bored, I am lonely, I don't know how to function, and it's just not getting any better.
So 2 things. They don't have the right coping skills. Nobody taught them how to live life when things go wrong, first of all. And we all know when we get sober, the shitstorm that we just left behind us is coming. Right? Mm-hmm. So when you get sober, you still have to deal with all the stuff you've been not dealing with for the past year or 2 or 3. That's going to hit you and you're going to get overwhelmed. What is the coping strategy for overwhelm? Break it down, right? Instead of going, oh my God, I have 15 things to do today. What's the number one thing I have to do today? And then I make a list and then I cross it off. Just that coping skill takes somebody from, I can't handle this, I have to get high, to, oh, this is manageable. I can do that. I don't have to do everything today, right? So that's a coping skill they're not getting. And that's super important that we do that. It's not just the why, it's how do I live life sober with the coping skills. And then this helps the boredom. It helps the restless discontent. It helps the racing thoughts. All of that stuff stops when you have the right amount of serotonin and dopamine in the brain because you're missing that. That's why you're wanting to use. You don't have enough or you have too much, depending on what's going on there.
Right. All right. That does make a lot of sense. And then what about the people who just, you had said something, Oh, okay. The emotional coping skills. Now, is that something, because a lot of the times what happens, we get hit with some kind of trauma or problem or grief, or somebody just comes at us and makes us upset or whatever. And it's just the perfect excuse. It is,
Mm-hmm.
And so is that just something where, you need to either get with a coach or get with, somebody and learn what to do, how to, because you're like something you said, a lot of us we used for years, and a lot of it was to numb out because I don't do the feels. I hate the feels. I won't watch Grey's Anatomy. Like, I don't, that's just, my friends will say, hey, this show is so awesome. It's called 911. And I'll be like, okay, no, because I know it's going to give me the feels and I don't want them. So work in progress. So, that's just, we have to learn how to deal with these emotions that one, we never had to feel. And now we don't know, they feel so intense compared to, other people who felt them their whole lives. I didn't feel this yesterday. And all of a sudden I'm, freaking out. So I'm thinking that with this, it's all about coping skills.
It is. So I tell you, this is what I say. Everybody living life gets hit with stuff that's odd. Let me give you an example. So today I'm supposed to rent out my RV. I have a guy coming. He was supposed to be here at 10 to rent the RV out. Last night, we're going over it, and one of the fuses blows, 10 o'clock at night. Well, there's nothing I can do about it. Nothing is open, nothing to do. I text the guy, the fuse blew, let me take care of it, give me tomorrow, come the next day. Will that interrupt your trip? Yes, it's an inconvenience. Okay. So today, we go take care of the fuse, and the generator blew. Now I can't rent the RV. Now I'm sitting there going, okay, that $10 purchase is now a several $1,000 fix. I have to let him know that he can't come get it. He's going to the races. He's having a meltdown. He's yelling at me. My husband's yelling at me, blah, blah, blah. Now, I have choices on how I interpret and accept their emotion, right? I have no control over the RV's generator. I can't fix it. I'm not a mechanic. I don't know how to do it. So the first thing I have to do is accept the fact I can't fix the problem, period, right? The second thing I have to do is say to him, I'm sorry. I understand you were expecting this to happen. This is out of my control. And that's it. If he continues to scream at me, I'm going to hang up the phone. I can choose to accept the screaming or not. Now, instead of going, okay, I can't handle it. That's it. I'm going to get high, because that would be your first choice. You stop and go, what can I control? I can control and make sure he has a full refund. I did that. I can call a mechanic and get someone out here to fix it. I can do that. That's within my control. But I can't control every situation all the time. So it's choosing how to react to the situation. That's what you need to learn. Because when you get high, your only coping skill is, I don't want to handle that, I'm going to get high. Oh, I don't want to handle that, I'm going to get high. I don't want to handle that, I'm going to get high.
Right. Right. Dr. Cali, this has been as awesome as I thought it was going to be.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. And thank you for, being willing to come on. I know, things get crazy around the holidays. You moved into a new house and everything, and we kind of had to reschedule, and, and personal stuff came up, and
talk about things outside of your control.
Right.
I'll tell you that story later.
Oh my gosh. And you guys remember, any kind of questions that you have or comments that you want to leave, if you're interested in, learning more about Red Label, anything like that. I think we can find the book on Amazon. Yes.
Yes. There's 2 books. There's I Married a Junkie and the 7 Key Principles to Tap into the Wealth Inside You. So this is a little bit more on law of attraction. Like, once you're sober, now what? How to get life going and get moving. So these 2.
Okay. And another place for those of us who are kind of cheap. One of my favorite apps, you guys, is Thrift Books. That was a mistake. Like, I am an addict to my core, meaning like I have so many books in line that I have not read yet. You must believe if a used book sale comes to town, I will buy all the books. Like, it doesn't just stop at, drugs and alcohol, but at least it's better to be addicted to books you know, and things like that. So thrift books is awesome. So if somebody's read it and they're like, this was awesome, now I'm gonna, you know, put it out there for somebody else to buy on the cheap or whatever, you guys can do that, but don't tell Dr. Kelly I told you. Get it from Amazon or something.
Well, now since I know that, I have 2 boxes of books in my garage. I will get your address and mail them to you, and you will have a ton of books to look through, peruse, and read at your leisure.
Right? I'm so excited. I have so many. I just set up my bookshelf. My Addictions Academy certificate.
I see that. They look nice.
I have to get a better frame. It's my dollar store frame. But yeah, I just set up my bookshelf and I'm all excited. I'm looking at it like a lot of books I need to be reading. And because, you know, I have all this time to read with everything that I do. But yeah, thanks for taking time out of your day. I know that you're busy, you know.
I appreciate it.
Yes. And hang on for me after we shut this all down. Hey, TikTok. Thanks so much, you guys, for watching the live. I hope you got something out of this. You can find Dr. Cali. It's Dr. Cali Estes, isn't it? Isn't it Dr.Cali_Estes?
It is.
On TikTok. So you can find her there. And we will see you guys later. Bye. And that's going to do it for us for the recovery scene. Thank you all for watching this video. And remember, addiction isn't pretty, but recovery is beautiful. And we'll